Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the I Like Birds podcast. I'm your host, Zach Rippey, and this podcast is dedicated to the non-believers, the confused believers, and the true believers. Because I, at one time or another, was all three. So I'm here to help you get a better understanding of who Jesus is and what he's all about. So let's grow in our faith together. You learn as I learn. And just so you know, I like the Bible, and I like words, so therefore, I like birds. Let's start the show. If you don't think I'm shimmying in my room every time I hear the intro song, you don't really know me that well, all right? Because that song gets me hype every single time. We're back, baby. Episode 4. You know what's funny is like a whole bunch of other podcasts, you would probably like skip the intro music, but how do you skip that song? It's so good. Here we are. Anyway, I'm so excited to be here. Episode 3 just came out a few days ago, but we're back already. In episode 3, I kind of told you guys that I was going to start sharing some of the messages I received about the podcast. Not, to glorify the podcast, but to glorify God and what he's doing in people's lives after listening to the podcast. It's influencing people to pursue Jesus more, and that's the whole goal of this podcast, all right? And I really hope it's an easy listen for you guys, and you really, learn something from it, and you take something with you, and you apply it to your lives on the daily. And I'm going to read this message from my friend Kelly Drake, who's actually marrying one of my best friends, Armani, in October at the end of the year. And we're praying that the wedding actually happens because due to coronavirus, it's looking a little rocky. But I have faith it's going to work out. And if they don't get to get married in October, I'm praying that they get to get married on God's will and when his timing is right. And they're going to do well and everything's going to be fine. So we'll pray it works out, and I'm sure it will. But here's a message from her. It's very sweet. Here we go. All right, it says, we just listened. Love it, and I'm so proud and inspired by you. We have similar backgrounds in the fact that we were kind of forced to go to church growing up. I was actually super into it and used to be a youth worship leading singer. I don't know if you knew that, but I don't know about you, but my parents, although they forced me to go to church about 2 to 3 times a week, we did Bible studies every single day and stuff. They weren't at all really the best representation of what being a Christian looks like. So her upper teen years, she pretty much turned away from God, she says, and in a sense, she hasn't really fully gone back, even though deep down she always knew that Christ is just waiting to be released again. Yes, he is. And I'll pause right there because I keep seeing these messages about like how being forced into the church, you don't really get to make your own opinions when you're young, which is something like I'm really going to take into consideration now because, I have 2 small children, and I think Noah has a good relationship with Jesus already, but I don't ever want to force anything on him, and I just want to lead by example. And I think that's all you really can do is lead by example when you have kids. So if you're listening out there with kids and you're a follower of Christ, just make sure you just do what Christ wants you to do, and then the kids will kind of see that. And then like my son Noah, man, he emulates everything that I do just because he looks up to me so much. And it's not like I do anything to make him look up to me. It's just the way I live, And like that's a big weight on my shoulders, and that's like a big responsibility I have. So me going down this path, and he's going to see me reading my Bible, he's going to see me doing the pod, he's going to see me at church, like I'm basically setting his foundation right. And I think that a lot of parents don't do that. They just kind of force, this way of thinking on people, on their kids that, isn't necessarily the right way to do it. Anyway, back to the message. Sorry, I went off a little tangent, but here we are. So yeah, I just wanted to let you know that Armani and I loved it and inspired us to dive into the Bible together. And I'm so excited to see where all of this takes you and all the people who listen and be inspired as we were. That was beautiful. And it really touched my heart. That was like the first nice message I received from somebody and from a close friend. So it meant the world. And it just shows that, and they're not just like going to listen to one episode and be done. They're going to continue to come back and keep pursuing God on their own. And I love that they sat down. They're going to sit down and read the Bible together. Like, I think that's so powerful. Me and my wife haven't done that, but we have done weekly Bible studies at her parents' house and with the rest of her family. And it's really brought us closer together as well. And my wife is like very, she's very knowledgeable in the Bible because she had to read it for this dance college that she went to. Like, that was like kind of their curriculum is to read the Bible, which is like, wow. Man, they didn't do that at my basketball summer camp. That's for sure. We were like staying up till 5 a.m. at different hotels and hanging out on the bus, talking to cheerleaders and stuff. Way different lifestyles that her and I lived. But That's okay. We met at the same end of the road, like I'm pursuing Jesus. And when I have a question about something in the Bible, it feels good to turn to her and kind of just ask her what she thinks. And then she gives me like what she thinks and what she's learned. And then it's able to kind of connect that way, where it's like she might not know everything, or she hasn't been refreshed in it in a while, but she has such a good understanding of it that she really helps me. And I think it's good to have your partner or even a friend just be, a good Christian friend that can help you out and just kind of talk to you about stuff, go back and forth with them. Cause like, I don't know about you guys, but when I talk about God, like the Holy Spirit comes alive, and I just start to feel really good. It's like adrenaline goes through me. I get excited. I start talking fast like I am now. And I don't know if you guys notice, I talk very quickly. So I always have to be like, all right, let me slow it down real quick because I don't want, words to not be heard. But also I'm just excited talking about God, But let's get in it, man. I've read James this week. I was in the middle of reading James, and man, it speaks volumes. And if you don't know, James is actually the brother of Jesus. So it means something, okay? It means something. And I really liked all of verses in chapter 1 of James, verses 2 through 27. I really enjoyed all that. So if you want to kind of keep up with what I'm reading and do your own reading while going through it, or read it another time, really recommend just that first chapter. And then also there's another chapter in there. Chapter 3 is about controlling your tongue, basically like watching what you say. And it's very powerful stuff too. But we're going to stick in chapter 1 today because there's just so much to unpack. So we'll skip to verse 12 where it says, God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. And it's so funny because haven't you always when something happens to you, like you get a flat tire or a car problem happens or something comes up in your marriage or your relationship, you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like God is just testing me right now with my patience. And maybe he is because he's working on you, like the more you practice patience and you go with that, the more you're rewarded, So God blesses those who patiently endure testing and temptation. So the temptation that comes, are you going to fight through it? Are you going to get over that hump and just, know what's right and wrong and go from that decision? Because I'll give you another example. It goes on into verse 13. Right after that, it says, and remember, when you're being tempted, do not say, God is tempting me, which I just admitted that we think that way. I think that way sometimes, but it tells you not to do that because God is never tempted to do wrong. Preach. And he never tempts anyone else. Preach again. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. Dude, temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away. Pause right there. Drag us away. It doesn't say it, but you kind of know what that means, right? It drags you away from what? From God, from Jesus, from doing what's right. Because you're doing what you want to do by giving into that temptation. Because we all have it in us to do that. We are just naturally selfish. It's kind of like our sinful nature. And it's up to us to consciously decide not to do that thing that is wrong. Not even just on a sin level, but dude, kind of like on a good person level. Think about all the things that are kind of sins. If you do those things, you're kind of a scumbag, right? So even if, you're struggling with if you believe in Jesus or not, and which I'm really excited you're listening to this podcast if you are, but even if you're struggling to believe that, it's all the things that are kind of sinful are kind of bad and kind of scummy, right? So for instance, lying. If we do that, it's a human nature thing to kind of lie because we don't want to handle the truth or go with the truth. That's bad. Cheating on your girl, bad-mouthing people, alcoholism. Dude, alcoholism is so big in America. America is one of the only countries who drinks to get drunk. Isn't that crazy? My buddy Jeff was telling me that. Most countries drink just to enjoy dinner or even just get a good buzz, But no, Americans are let's get effed up. Let's get hammered, bro. Come on, dude. Don't be, you know the rest. But that's just kind of the culture we have here. And, here, what about this temptation? This temptation is about to get real, so buckle in. All right, it's big in our culture. It's way too normal, way more normal than it should be. It's a $1 billion industry. Can you guess it? Pornography. Verse 15, a little bit after that says, these desires give birth to sinful actions. And when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth. So the things we're talking about as far as these temptations that we give in, if we give in once to these temptations, it gives birth to sinful actions, meaning more is to come. It's like a ripple effect. So it's like if you give a little bit of legs to that sin, you'll see a monster in a few weeks, a few months, a few years. For instance, with pornography, it's only gotten more accessible. Have you guys noticed that? The older we get, I'm 27, so the more I've gotten older, it's gotten more accessible, more interesting, more available, more acceptable. I can even tell you from my struggles with that, man, for real. Like I started at a very young age. I was in 7th grade, so what is that, like 13-ish, 12, and I think it was even before that, but like this is just what I remember as like enough to share with you guys. Like this really stuck out as like, yo, this is kind of weird and just like devilish, dude. Like I just remember I was in the 7th grade and I would run, keep in mind, I was a fat kid. I would run home from my bus stop, rolls jiggling and all. I would run home from my bus stop so I had enough time to watch this one video that I had before my dad got home. And then it just evolved from there, man. More sites, more times a day, more sneakier ways to hide it, More like, oh, in the bathroom. Oh, honestly, like you just come up with different sneakier ways to hide it. Therefore, it's like that even reminds me of kind of devilish, Then I grow up and it was just a part of my life, dude. I have no idea why, but it just stayed in my life until I fully understood God doesn't want us to do that or see that. Because it really does. It makes sex with your wife way less enjoyable when you're watching what other women do for a camera crew. Dude, did you know there's like 8 people behind the camera in every porno? Gross, dude. 8 dudes just like with long hair, just like eating donuts and making sure the lights are good and the sound is good. Some dude like holding like a, what's that thing? Like a pop microphone, like the long microphone that just like hangs over. I forget what it's called, but think about it. It's kind of funny, but also really weird and really dark. Like that a woman is, the person that we're kind of looking at on screen and we're like, oh, yeah, being, it's a sin, dude. It's a sin. Like just think about all the things I just said. It's a sin. All right. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's a sin. Something we all have to try to move forward from. And it's hard. We have to get away from that because it's so adopted in our culture and it's so okay. And, it's so everywhere. It's like you can legit look it up on your phone. Like weird, man. Who would have thought that? Not me when I was running off that bus in 7th grade. But I'll be honest, man. I legit watched it up until kind of recently, 2020. All right. And I feel terrible because I even watched it when I knew my wife doesn't like that I would watch it. I mean, not many wives want their husband to watch porn, but some just put up with it or they watch it themselves too, so they're cool with it. But I even felt guilty about watching it, but I did it anyway because I at one time was not a full believer in Jesus. I was a lukewarm Christian. I was someone who believed but didn't try to do what he wanted us to do. I wanted to believe and just do what I wanted to do and what the world wanted me to do and what the devil wanted me to do. But I feel good, man, because I moved on from porn. And I think it's for good, man. I really do. Because in my life, dude, since then, has gotten way better. My sex life has gotten better. My marriage is better because of it. And like what I just shared with you guys, my wife doesn't even know about any of this, dude. And maybe she'll find out if she listens, but that's okay because like, dude, this is just real stuff that I go through and what I want to share with you guys that like, it's not what we think it is, dude. I want to read this one thing that I put up about pornography and what it says about it in the Bible. And it's a little wordy, but I think it's going to get the point across. All right, it says, by far the most searched for terms on the internet are related to pornography. Porn is rampant in the world today, perhaps more than anything else. Satan has succeeded in twisting and perverting sex. He has taken what is good and right, which is loving sex between a husband and wife, and he replaced it with lust, pornography, adultery, rape, and homosexuality. Pornography can be the first step on a slippery slope of ever-increasing wickedness and immortality, which it says in Romans 6:19. The addictive nature of porn is well documented. Just as a drug user must consume quantities of drugs of more powerful drugs to achieve the same high as he once did before, pornography drags a person deeper and deeper into hardcore sexual addictions and ungodly desires, which I can account for. I can testify to. Yeah, I started liking weird stuff that I didn't once like when I was 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade. It just kind of ramped up into just being like, why am I watching this? All right, a little personal, but okay. Here we go. Back to the reading. The 3 main categories of sin are the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, as it says in John 2:16. Pornography definitely causes us to lust after flesh and undeniably a lust of the eyes. Porn definitely does not qualify as one of the things we are to think about. According to Philippians 4:18, Porn is addictive in Corinthians and in Peter, and it's destructive in Proverbs, Ezekiel, and Ephesians. So I'm saying all these Bible verses because, hey, it's everywhere. It's written by multiple people in the Bible about what it is and what to stay away from. Because it's also continued reading. It says, lusting after other people in our minds, which is an essence of pornography, is offensive to God. Matthew 5:28. Great book. When devotion to porn characterizes a person's life, he or she continues to sin without seeking help, making no attempt to stop or feeling no desire to change his or her behavior. It demonstrates that the person may not be saved. And if you want to get saved from it, there's some things you got to do. And it's not easy, it's not hard, but it's self-control. It's a mental thing. So I think we can all do it. You can do it, I can do it. Confess your sin to God. Number one, just tell God that you're struggling with it and you need some help. Ask God to cleanse, renew, and transform your mind, as it says in Romans 12:2. So you hear these Bible verses that I'm saying. If you kind of need help to ask God to cleanse, renew, and transform your mind, what you do is you open your Bible, you look for Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Gives you a little bit more. Number 3, ask God to fill your mind with things that are true, honorable, just, pure, lovely, and commendable. And that's kind of what we should want our minds to be filled with, right? So asking God to help you do that shouldn't be a big deal. Number 4, learn to possess your body in holiness. Like, see your body as kind of like, sacred for your wife or your husband. Understand the proper meaning of sex and rely on your spouse alone to meet the need. Like if you want something that you think your spouse isn't, can't do or isn't doing, maybe just have a conversation. And number 6, realize that if you walk in the Spirit, you will not fulfill the lust of the flesh. Take practical steps to reduce your exposure to graphic images, install pornography blockers on your computer if you have to, limit television and video usage, and find another Christian who would pray for you and keep you accountable. You know what, dude? I just read that and I didn't even realize that I did that organically. The second I realized what porn was and how God doesn't want us to do it, I immediately just started taking steps in that direction of just weeding that out of my life. Like as soon as I would scroll my timeline and I'd see a girl that I previously followed that was being an Instagram chick, who I'm talking about, butt cheeks hanging out and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed looking. I enjoyed it. So I was like, all right, I enjoy it and I don't want to enjoy it. I'm not supposed to enjoy this. I have a wife who's so much better looking than I am and she's so beautiful. It's why am I even taking the time to follow these people? So once I kind of came to this realization and I got on my walk with Jesus, I just started pressing unfollow on everybody that I saw, anybody that would pop up. I wasn't going to go to my followers and then look for everyone and then unfollow everybody at once. I wasn't going to do a bulk cleaning, because that's too what's the word I'm looking for? That's too, in my book, you can do that if you want, if you feel like that's going to help you. But to me, that was too all at once, oh, I'm doing this because I have to. Instead, every time I see it, I'm because they post a lot, trust me, you're going to see it on the timeline. Every time I would see it, I would just press unfollow because then it felt like a consistent cleansing. It felt like I was consistently weeding that out of my life, and therefore it wasn't oh, I just did that on Monday, but it's Friday now, So it feels good to just, once you see it, unfollow, and you kind of just get your mind cleared up, and it's been great. I just really enjoyed it. I'm going to read out loud the verses 16 through 18 in James chapter 1. Super good. So excited to read it for you. I got to find it first. All right, here we go. All right, so don't be misled, my dear brothers and sisters. Whatever is good and perfect comes down to us from God our Father, who created all the lights in the heavens. He never changes or casts a shifting shadow. He chose to give birth to us by giving us his true word, and we, out of all creation, became his prized possession. I love that, dude. You hear how it said we have been misled? I love that. Because we've been misled, dude, our whole lives. I know I have. We see all these gorgeous models on television, magazines, music videos, and now Instagram promoting green tea shakes with their butts hanging out. Green tea shakes. I don't even like green tea shakes. What a dad thing to say, by the way. But think about this for a minute, dude. We've all been duped. We just now live in this constant sex-crazed culture that idolizes looks, body parts, and body counts. And if you don't know, a body count means how many people you slept with. And if you're a dude like I am, you grew up kind of hearing, the higher the body count, the better man you are, the cooler you are, the better looking you are. They lied to us, dude. God doesn't want that for us, man. God doesn't want us out here slanging and banging. He wants us praying and changing. Zachary B got bars, but still, seriously, God doesn't want us out here slanging. Because God gave us the word, man. He gave us the word of him. It's a big book for a reason. Have you ever thought about how big the Bible is? It's because it's for a reason. It's dope. You learn something about life every time you read it. Why would you ever complain about not wanting to read something that makes your heart more full, your life more successful, and your spirit more fulfilled? Open it up, man. It's good. And he says he chose to give birth to us. So this is from that verse, 16 through 18. It says he chose to give birth to us by giving us his true word. That means the Bible, guys. He gave it to us so we will know how to be good to people. Don't you want to be good every day? Look at your own life and think, man, I figured it out. I want to look at my life and be like, I figured it out. God helped me figure it out because I follow his word. And also, when you do read the Bible, try to do what it says. It's there for a reason because it works. It's right. It's fulfilling. For example, in the book of James, it says faith without good deeds is dead. Meaning if you don't do good deeds, you aren't as faithful to Jesus as you claim to be. Because Jesus was a walking good deed machine. He did so much good for people, man. He's like so admirable. Seriously, the least you can do is hold a door open for someone. Help someone get a bite to eat. Help your friends on when they post about a GoFundMe when they're struggling. Even if they're not your friend and it's some dude from high school you don't really like. Throw him a bone, dog. Throw him a 20 spot. Donate to a nonprofit. Buy a stranger's meal in a drive-thru. Jesus healed blind people. You're telling me you can't buy someone's coffee for no reason at all? Even if they look angry or intimidating, do the good deed, and I promise you, they'll probably be in a good mood after that. So like I said a few minutes ago, believe what you read and do it. It works. It's right. Those good deeds are fulfilling. Trust me. You will feel good, and so will they. You will show that person that you're doing that good deed for who Jesus is by just your actions. In verse 23 in James, it says, if you listen to the word and you don't obey it, it is like glancing at your face in a mirror. You see yourself, walk away, and you forget what you look like. So basically, like if you read it and you're not conscious about what it is and you don't obey it because you don't apply it to your life, you're just reading it because you think you should or somebody made you should or the podcast made you want to read it, but you're not like focused and actually applying it to your life and obeying it. I don't know, man. I'll read it again. If you listen to the word and don't obey it, it's like glancing at your face in a mirror. You see yourself, you walk away, and you forget what you look like. Those are some bars, by the way. My boy like Drake, but he got bars. Then he said in verse 25, but if you look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free, perfect law meaning Jesus, the New Testament. He continues, if you do what it says and don't forget what you heard, God will bless you for doing it. If you do what it says in the book, don't forget what you heard from the book, God will bless you for doing it. God blesses you for reading it and living it, dude. Don't you want blessings from our Creator? I know I do, man. And I know he's already started working so much magic in my life since I started reading and living through him. Blessings of worldly pleasures for me and my family. And most importantly, inner pleasures and relationship pleasures. Like my friendships are all tip-top magoo right now. I've gotten closer with my family and my friends during this. I'm way closer to my little son Malachi than I was before. Like right now, me and him are like tight. Like he looks for me and stuff in the house. He wants to just be in my room with me all the time. When he goes to sleep, you know, my wife puts him to sleep and he's always looking for me. You know, like it's special, man. He blessed me like during this walk, man. My wife and I are happier. My whole life is better, man, since I started doing more to pursue Jesus every day. And you can too, man. You can too. And I'm sure you guys know this, but you have control of your life, man. Because God gives you free will, but he also helps you get closer to him if you ask him in prayer. He sent us Jesus to die on a cross. He will send you a little bit of motivation to open up his word if you ask for it. Isn't that crazy? Like he sent Jesus to die on a cross for us, but we're afraid to ask him just for a little help. Because I promise you, man, he will give you the extra curiosity to listen to more of these episodes as they drop every week. He will show you himself if you ask. Even if you're already a believer, we can all grow more in our faith, man. We can always do more. We can always read more, do nicer things for people, show people Jesus, pray more, worship more, and spread the gospel to others more. Talk about Jesus more in your daily conversations, man. Promise you, it's going to make you and others feel better. It's going to be so powerful. Jesus is going to love it. God's going to be hearing you and proud. And it's on us, man. You can do it, and so can I. Let's keep pursuing Jesus together, man. Thank you for listening.